Now, social media has changed. It's no longer social. And since Twitter became X, I mean, like I was telling you, Yasmin, like when I get Jew ban, I get you're not white, you're Jewish. I get tell the Jew to shut the fuck up. And I just bookmark them. Twitter has become just a cesspool for hate. And so trying to go there and change people's mind, I mean, I've seen people try, and then everybody just gangs up. And Instagram, just people avoid it. And then same with LinkedIn, it's just not that platform. Social media, I don't see as being that place. I think you've got to go face to face. I'd rather, that's why when I have these conversations, I go where I know people are going to disagree with me. Whether it's DEI or whatever.
Mark Cuban is having a meltdown because he got face planted on X over his cringeworthy defense of DEI, most embarrassingly by Jordan Peterson. Wait until you see this. It's a masterclass in how to effectively shut down the absurdities of the woke left. Hey, gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to help you to think better so you can feel better in these crazy and turbulent times. So make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. One of the most exciting developments of late is news of how woke DEI initiatives are literally imploding everywhere. Not only is there a hiring freeze on DEI officers, but there are actually mass firings happening all over the country. It's being widely reported that DEI positions are getting slashed across the board in virtually every industry. Now, of course, this follows on the heels of the landmark decision handed down by the Supreme Court last summer, a 6-3 decisive smackdown officially ending affirmative action, particularly with regard to college admissions. But the ripple effects are being felt all throughout society, most particularly corporations who ever so coincidentally started firing their DEI officers shortly after the Supreme Court's decision, no doubt concerned about comparable legal action against them in the wake of the decision. But unfortunately, someone forgot to tell all of this to Mark Cuban. As far as Cuban is concerned, DEI is great. It's our strength. That's what he tried to argue originally to Elon Musk, who called out DEI for being blatantly racist. And so Cuban, a few weeks back, tweeted out this whole pathetic defense of diversity, equity, and inclusion that was so patently self-unaware that Musk responded with one simple and brilliant sentence. Cool, so when should we expect to see short, white, Asian women on the Mavs? Referring to Cuban's basketball team, the Dallas Mavericks. So in other words, so Mark, since you're such a defender of the hiring of all kinds of minorities, racial, ethnic, sexual, gender minorities, simply because they're minorities, then when are we going to see, short, like we don't want to be heightists here, right? Short Asian women on the Dallas Mavericks? That was a brilliant answer that exposed Cuban for just being so out of his league and trying to be an apologist for things he obviously doesn't quite understand. But Cuban didn't stop. He actually doubled down on the intellectual humiliation, as it were. He tried to take issue with the notion that equity means equality of outcome. I mean, that's essentially the difference between equity and equality. Equality involves openly accessible opportunities, whereas equity involves socially engineered outcomes. That's the fundamental difference between the two. This is widely recognized, most especially by this genius.
Equality suggests often everybody should get the same thing. Well, that often assumes everybody started out in the same place, as opposed to equity, which is everyone should end up in the same place. And if you then understand not everybody started out in the same place, you understand some people need more. So we all end up in the same place.
Hey, gang, as many of you know, we were unfortunately recently demonetized. Big tech came in without any warning and totally and completely demonetized our channel, which obviously it's a major blow to our ability to stay in communication with each other each and every day. However, the amazing development in all of this is you. Thousands of you, literally thousands, have stepped in and rescued me and this channel by joining our Insiders Club. Now, when you heard the news, literally thousands of you stepped up to big tech and let them know that we refuse to ever lose contact with one another. You made it loud and clear to the Silicon Valley oligarchs that we are a movement, an army of like-minded patriots who refuse to be silenced by the international woke police. And so I just want to take this moment to thank each and every one of you who've joined our Insiders Club to bypass big tech's efforts at censoring us. And for those of you who have yet to join and are so inclined, just click on the link below and link up with thousands of patriots just like you who are taking back our country each and every week. And most especially, we're all doing it together. So that was Kamala Harris explaining the difference between equality and equity. And look, she even provides pictures. See? Equality is where we start, but equity is where we finish. According to Kamala, that is the big difference, but not according to Mark. No. He wrote, quote, "I'm sorry. I can say with 100% confidence that anyone who believes equity is about providing equal outcomes does not understand what the equity in DEI is. Equal outcomes is the disclaimer the anti-DEI movement uses to try to scapegoat DEI as unusable and unsuitable. You will not find that in any corporate DEI program. Nowhere, ever, never. Feel free to provide a company website that says equality of outcomes to prove me wrong. It's just the usual ridiculous commentary." Wow. Somebody's obviously getting poked in the soft, sensitive area. Now, what Cuban just said there was literal patent nonsense. So much so that he got nuked by Twitter's community notes that provided website after website after website, URL citations that clearly identify equity with equality of outcome, defined, of course, by the proponents, the advocates of DEI. Now, that would have been bad enough. But then Godzilla had to enter the ring. And I'm talking the one and only Jordan Peterson, who, of course, has had a little experience of his own with this kind of woke DEI stuff in terms of course, his own run-ins with it. Peterson responded to Cuban's obvious ignorance with this, quote, "This is truly one of the most clueless missives I've ever seen on Twitter, and that's a hard contest to win." You could say that again. "Where the hell have you been the last 20 years? Because the world you think you live in bears absolutely no resemblance to the world that currently exists. What exactly do you think transpired around Harvard and Claudine Gay?" Now, of course, here he's referring to the fallout from the resignation of the now disgraced Harvard president, Claudine Gay, who had to resign even after the Harvard board did everything they could to circle the wagons around her. But she had no choice given the mounting accusations of plagiarism against her in the wake of her disastrous congressional testimony, along with outraged donors pulling billions of dollars in endowments from the university. But Peterson goes on, "What exactly do you think transpired around Harvard and Claudine Gay? Let me guess. Systemic racism. Poor Dr. Gay. Do you understand the depth of the rot her appalling display at Congress revealed and was echoed by the presidents of MIT and UPenn? Let me put it so you could understand it if you had ears to hear and eyes to see. Equity is 100% about equality of outcome." Now, gang, he's absolutely correct on that. It's been that way since the movement known as the Frankfurt School came to the United States in the 30s and 40s. These are guys that first brought cultural Marxism to the academy in the 20th century. And what their cultural Marxism taught was that everything in society is comprised of two classes of people, an oppressor class and an oppressed class, a victim group and a victimizer group. And we know who belongs to which group based on our race, on the color of our skin, right? Our gender, our ethnicity, our sexual orientation. And any compliance, any debate, any discussion that calls into question that social binary is itself a manifestation of that oppression. And the only way we overcome that oppression is through what Herbert Marcuse called repressive tolerance, which deliberately marginalizes the majority in positions of power and centralizes the minority in those cultural power positions. It is fundamentally all about outcome. Jordan continues, quote, "The purposeful cloud of linguistic confusion around the term is there to allow moralizing blind enablers such as yourself to maintain their delusional allyship. And you take the bait to assuage your guilt for whatever you may have had to do in the course of your life, perhaps while amassing your fortune. That's between you and God, and rightly so. But in the meantime, the rest of us can only watch and wonder in utterly open-mouthed amazement." Wow. Open-mouthed amazement for sure. It's tragic that oligarchs like Cuban can be so easily manipulated into useful idiots in this cultural war. But it's a blessing beyond words to have someone like Jordan Peterson so honestly yet brutally call them out.